Ed Barnes here, and we're back with a new episode of 21 Minutes. If you recall, last episode we sat down with C21 President and CEO Mike Meadler to discuss mindset and how you chose to show up in your personal and professional life. We're building on that today and exploring what a relentless mindset in action can look like. And there is no one better to have this conversation with than Kyle Seyboth. The Cliff Notes or short version, about a decade ago, he went from no network, no experience in real estate, to the #1 agent in the U.S. and is now the owner of his own brokerage, Century 21, the Seyboth team. There's so much to unpack here because I'll tell you, this kind of success takes more than just sheer will to accomplish. Kyle, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely, Ed. I thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate that introduction, and I think you hit it right on the head.
So tell me, if you were to give me a 30-second elevator pitch about what you do, what would that be, Kyle?
I would say I help fulfill the American dream for buyers and sellers across the board of all ethnicities, demographics, socioeconomic backgrounds, and I do it with a passion unlike anyone else in this field has. Is something that I truly enjoy, and I really like to help people get to their goals within real estate.
How would you describe yourself?
I am aggressive, relentless, but at the same time, intelligent enough to know that strategy, vision, planning, and execution is what it takes to get there. So I would say aggressive by nature with a lot of intellect behind it that allows me to get to a higher level.
Well, I certainly would agree with you when you say words like limitless, relentless. What would you attribute your success to date?
So the success I've had in the last 10 years comes from the ability to allow noise to be blocked out of my day-to-day, keeping my eye on the prize, which is helping people and facilitating in a real estate transaction. I don't allow external noise to get in the middle. The other thing is I think I have an athletic background, which builds a competitiveness in nature that really provides the ability to understand that problems will happen. It's my job to resolve them, and it's my job to be a problem solver and not a complicator. And that's what the biggest thing in this business that's going to help make you the most successful.
That's interesting. You said that mindset and how critical it is. The expression positivity breeds positive results. What does that mean to you?
At some point, we all have negativity around us, and we have to eliminate that and look at that negativity as something that kind of gets in the way and acts as a speed bump. But when we have a positive mind, when we have a positive spirit and a positive attitude, it puts us in the best position to allow for these positive results. Things happen because your mind is right, and it allows you to be in a position to execute towards that positive result.
Kyle, I couldn't agree with you more. Give me an example, if you could, of your daily habits that make you successful.
Waking up at the same time every day, trying to get into the office at the same time every morning, and then begin to get into go time at that 8:30, 9 o'clock hour. So have the practice or the warm up or the preparation between 6:30 and 7:30. Make sure that I surround myself with the right people and we put the people in a position to succeed for the day. It's a function of consistency of habit and activity. And I think it's that activity that takes me over the hump.
Do you remember the day I came into your office? Your driver called in sick. And next thing I recall, you said, I looked at you and you looked at me and I said, I'll be a driver. You remember that?
Oh, I remember it. And I was like, are you sure? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. And you got behind that wheel and drove like you never drove before.
I got to watch the Kyle Seyboth that I've heard about, but also been a good friend with, go into action. I believe Jen gave me a schedule, and boy, I was so nervous whether I should, if I took a wrong turn or made the wrong thing. And in that day alone, I recall you coming out and having 3 listings and me saying to you, hey, Kyle, have you met those people before? And you said, no. And within a half hour, you had 1 listing, another listing, and another listing. And then after that, we drove to 3 showings, 1, 2, 3. And after that, we went to 2 interviews, if I recall, that you had with people. And then I think you stopped by the transaction coordinators to talk to them a little bit. I mean, what a full day.
That's pretty much what happens here on a day in, day out basis. When you surround yourself or you put yourself in a position where you're constantly active, you don't know what that switch going off feels like, looks like, and you don't want to know what it looks like. Being intertwined with that every day puts you in a position to succeed just based on pure activity, right? So activity, if done in the right way and having the right mindset, can put you in a position for results that you never imagined were possible.
You talked about an elimination of white space. It seems to me the average people here allow more white space to get into their space than not. How do you manage and keep that white space at a minimum?
We focus on looking at every waking moment during the day, during the work day, and say, what is the opportunity cost of doing nothing? And what is the opportunity cost of doing something? And we find the highest dollar per hour, highest, most efficient, most effective time for me during the day. I've got a great staff. They do a phenomenal job. They understand my mentality, and they really can appreciate how important it is to me to make sure that we're utilizing the day and we're living and we're working every day to the fullest and to our best potential.
Let's shift gears here a little bit and let's go back to your background. And you started saying 10 years ago. Let's start at the beginning. Tell me about your professional career prior to real estate.
Prior to real estate, I was working in Boston for about 10 years. And what I did is I worked as an accountant to get started. So the first 2 or 3 years, I was what's called a staff accountant. From years 3 to 10, I tried to get into finance, went on, got my MBA from Suffolk, ended up getting my CFA, worked in equities, worked in finance, did the whole kin caboodle. I followed everything everyone told me I was supposed to do. But the problem was it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was living my life for everyone else. I was doing what everyone wanted me to do, not what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be in a position where I could control my own destiny, where I didn't have a ceiling. And unfortunately, in the path that I was in, I was never going to get there. I didn't have the pedigree from an Ivy League school. I wasn't from a background of a rich family who knew everything, had all these networks and all these connections. I was a regular Joe that didn't know a lot of people, that worked in Boston and had to figure out and claw and scrape and scratch to figure out how to get to what that was going to be, which would be my passion.
So tell me, what made you then decide to get into real estate from finance?
This gentleman that my dad knew pretty well, I would always see the guy around, and he had a bunch of money in his pocket all the time, cash. And I was like, what's up with this guy? Like, he just seems like a regular Joe. And my dad would be like, he owns a lot of real estate. And I started to dig into what that meant. And I said, okay, he owns a lot of multifamilies. Let me buy a multifamily. So I go ahead and buy my first multifamily, a 4 unit in Pawtucket, which I sold or is selling next week. And I looked to see what the agent made. That was my side. And I was like, hold on. She just made how much to do what? And I said, okay, I'm going to try to get into this game and see if this is something that works for me. That's how it got started. And from there, it just became this addiction for success and this addiction to be great and this addiction to get to the higher echelon of the space.
Was there any hesitancy in making that change or transition?
It was the scariest day of my life when I made the transition because I went from having a salary, I went from living comfortably, I went from having a guarantee to an absolute guarantee of nothing. Forcing myself to eliminate the guarantee put me in survivor mode when it really ramped things up even higher. And I said, look, now your why is to never go back to where you came from. Entrepreneurship still to this day is scary. There's things that happen every single day where it's like, oh, shoot, this could go to zero. Oh, shoot, if I make this mistake, we're going to lose a big client. Oh, no, did I make the right decision hiring that person? So entrepreneurship is one thing, but the pressure to stay at that upper echelon is even harder.
When you're transitioning from finance into real estate, did you do real estate as like as a part-time agent?
Yes, I was part-time for the first 6 years of my career.
And how many units did you sell as a part-time agent? Do you recall?
I started with 7 my first year and I ended year 6 with 191.
Doing it part-time?
Part-time, yep.
Question is, were you successful? I think so.
So it's funny you say that though. You have family and friends in your head and they're like, well, this isn't going to last forever. You can't always be good at this. Commission jobs are for losers. I had to overcome so much of that. Whether you work for someone or for yourself, you got to kind of like what you do. And if you don't, then you got to make an adjustment. And I came from a background that didn't believe in adjustments. They believed in you do what you do and you like it and you shut up and do it. And I think that was a really hard thing to overcome.
So, what made you decide to transition to full time?
My job was about to fire me. So I had to make a decision. So it came to a climax, and that decision had to be made.
So, there you are, being very successful as an agent. I guess Keller Williams at the time.
Yep.
And then at some point, you said, you know what? I want to be more than an agent. What made you transition into becoming a broker?
I mean, to be quite honest, that was my videographer, camera guy, my social media guy said, look, man, why don't you try to do something bigger than you? And that's going to be the situation where you can show that you're bigger than an individual agent, that you're someone that can put a business together and operate at a high level across the board. But that challenge of now owning a brokerage is even greater.
Why did you ultimately choose Century 21 Real Estate?
I really was a believer in the brand recognition. I love that it's a legacy brand. I felt like a combination of the ability to be autonomous and do and provide a brokerage, which is the way that I wanted to build it out, could be a super powerful team. And I just felt like it was a good fit overall.
Let's talk a little bit about the support of Century 21. What has it been since you've joined?
The support has been, it's been great. It kind of has that small family feeling, right? So I feel like it was the support of you guys and Jason and Mike and Brian and some of the other folks that helped me and Rhonda to get to this point. And now we're at a point where, we have 140 agents and we're looking to grow that thing even bigger. And it's constant support, and it's something we never did before. So there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. It's just how do we navigate through that?
So let's talk about growth and success. When you started your affiliation with Century 21, you had one office, 15 agents. How are you currently tracking from growth perspective today?
We have right now 145 agents. We have 7 offices, and we're looking to continue to grow that hopefully by the end of this year between 180 and 200, and then 300 next year.
Wow. You talked a little earlier about your sports mentality, the experience of your background in sports. Tell us a little bit about your competitive playing basketball, right?
Yeah, so I was basketball guy kind of all the way through from high school to college. And I think that was where I got my confidence was college. I think high school I was really shy, I was small, I was weak. And then college it hit me and my mindset just changed. I became a killer. I became someone that was ready to do anything and everything to be successful. That was a life changer for me. It's something that helped me become successful in business and will continue to help me.
And did you have a habit of going out before the game and after the games and constantly practice and shooting and shooting?
Yeah, we shot the ball. I mean, I shot hundreds and thousands of shots every single day, and just continued no matter what it took to perfect it. And I was obsessed with the process, and I was obsessed with getting to the point where I felt like it became second nature. And I think that same holds true for real estate now. There's not really anything in real estate that I haven't seen and can't deal with. Now I can always learn and always get better, and that's the goal. It's seeing, it's understanding and navigating, and that's the key.
Coaching has played a huge role in your real estate career, from what I can see. Since affiliating with C21 brand, talk to me a little bit about the value you see in coaching and how you plan to evolve what you're really currently doing.
Our coaching program has been great. It's an 8-week program. Brian and the folks at Century 21 really helped a lot with the curriculum. I'm excited about the fact that agents are going to get in-depth, real world, real life, real knowledge that they can utilize from the coaching program on an ever-changing basis. So I find it to be fascinating. I'm excited. I want to be the best coach in the world at some point. Right now, I'm going to continue to sell and then just keep moving towards that.
That sort of like answers my next question. The most amazing part is that you're still a selling agent. And I recall you saying, I can coach because I have street cred. Probably part of the reason why you're still selling, correct?
The street cred is a differentiator, right? What that does is it allows me to kind of come in with a whole different angle, right? And it gives me credibility, it gives me validity in the space. And I think it's the realistic part and what people, really want to see. You want to learn? Okay, let's learn from someone that's doing it at a super, super high level.
Kyle, you recently tested the cryptocurrency waters in becoming the first agent in the US to help a client purchase land with Dogecoin. Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm very astute to crypto. I get it. I understand it. I've been an investor and I've been out of it. And with that, my passion has made locally here, I said, let's talk to some sellers and see if they want to sell in crypto. And we have a seller. We had a seller at the time that wanted to sell in Dogecoin. We decided to go ahead and put this out and get it out in the market. And it's been a fascinating thing. And I think it's going to be a wave of the future. If crypto stays around, I think you're going to see more and more stuff that's going to sell this way.
Kyle, I once heard you say this expression that holds to me: winners win. What do you say is the key to success for your team and your company?
The key to success is the leader's attitude. Problems will happen, negative things will get in the way, but it's how do we take those negatives, turn them into positive, turn a loss into a lesson, and then perform at a super high level with the vision that no one else may be able to see at the time. But at the same time, as the leader, you're the one that sees it and you believe in everything that you're saying, and you don't just talk about it, but you actually be about it.
There's been some great momentum with the brand recently. Entrepreneur Magazine has recently named C21 the number one fastest growing franchise and number seven on the top global franchises. How does the global footprint, Kyle, of the C21 brand play into your future success?
So I think what it does is it allows me to build instant credibility in markets outside of my own. So it gives me some credibility and validity in the overall broker space. And it's really going to allow us to take this business to the next level, to build a conglomerate filled with offices throughout the New England region, and hopefully they're bigger thereafter, and just continue to focus on what we're doing locally and build it out even stronger.
You're currently at 140 agents. You have a goal of 200 agents by the end of this year. That's like a 1,200% increase from the time you started in our brand a year ago. What's your plan about getting there to the 200 agents?
Our goal is to recruit in the sense that we're going to add value to your lives. We're going to bring you more deals. We're going to provide you more leads. We're going to give you more opportunities than you ever got at your other brokerage. And that's what's going to differentiate us from everybody else. And I think that value add is really going to be a huge piece of our recruiting.
So, in other words, the way you're attracting your recruits in your area there is through the value proposition of leads and what else?
So it's a function of leads, it's a function of support, it's a function of training, it's optionality. We give people options with different programs and different teams within the brokerage. It's a function of having high producing agents that other agents can aspire to. And I think that's the beauty of it. When you can provide, hey, I want to be like Ed, I want to be like Linda. That's a beautiful thing, because agents have been there, done that, right? Oh, if he can do it or she can do it, I can do it.
Tell me, which weighs heavier for you, Kyle? Quality or quantity in agents?
I'm going to go right down the middle. I want to have a lot of good people. So I don't want either or. I want to have all the people and I want them all to be good. Now, I know that's not realistic, but if I shoot for that target, which is really, really wide, if I come close, I'm still going to be in a good position.
So, what are the benefits, if there are any, that a traditional real estate company might have over some of these newer business models that are coming up every day in the marketplace?
This market will continue to be a contact sport. And what I mean by a contact sport, it's about getting you in front of people. It's about talking to people. It's about having people help you do things. And at the end of the day, you've got all these different online, this one and that one, and low service, low cost, low fees. Well, you get what you pay for. And with me, you're going to get someone who's sacrificed a heck of a lot to get to this point, who has a passion and a love for this game that unlike anybody else. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have concerns, you're going to get all that from me. And I think that's the part that helps us differentiate.
How has C21 supported your ability to showcase value?
They've added an extra layer of credibility. I already had a certain type of clout here in the local market, in the national market, and Century 21 open some eyes and say, oh, he's joining with a brand, a legacy brand that's been around 50 years or so. You hear that, you start to hear that, and it gives you a little more credibility when you meet with that seller.
A couple personal questions. Would you do it differently again if you had to do it again?
If I had to do everything again, would I change anything? I would not change a thing.
What is your ultimate professional goal?
When someone thinks of basketball, I think of Michael Jordan. I need people, when they think of real estate, to think of me. And I think on top of that is be financially free in the next 10 years, where I control and determine what I'm going to do.
You know, it's like the story of anyone can do anything they want to if they put their minds to it and have the attention and goals. So that's a great story. Tell me something. Who or what inspires you, Kyle?
I would say my father has been a big inspiration. He's someone that accomplished a ton and built a business of his own from the ground up. So I've taken a lot of what I've seen from him and implemented it into my own business.
Great. That about wraps it up, Kyle. A pleasure as always. Appreciate the chat, and I look forward to celebrating your goals accomplished at the end of this year. In our next episode, we'll have Greg Harrelson from C21 The Harrelson Group, who's an amazing coach and drives enviable productivity in all of his agents. We're going to break it all down for you. So thanks for tuning in.
All rights reserved. Century 21 and the Century 21 logo are trademarks of Century 21 Real Estate, LLC. The Century 21 system fully supports the principles of the Fair Housing Act and the Equal Opportunity Act. Each franchise is independently owned and operated. This is not intended and shall not be deemed to constitute an offer to sell a franchise. Franchise offerings made only by a franchise disclosure document. These franchises have been registered under the Franchise Investment Law of the State of California. Such registration does not constitute approval, recommendation, or endorsement by the Commissioner of Corporations, nor finding by the Commissioner that the information provided herein is true, complete, and not misleading. This advertisement is not an offering. An offering can only be made by a prospectus filed first with the Department of Law of the State of New York. Such filing does not constitute approval by the Department of Law. The Minnesota registration number for this franchise system is F186.